Thank you to the Altman Foundation and the Horace W. Goldsmith Foundation for helping make the PROJcast possible.
Welcome to our show. Join our flow. It's the 52nd Street PROJcast.
From the heart of Hell's Kitchen, this is the PROJcast, a podcast created by the community at the 52nd Street Project. We are a nonprofit in New York City that partners the young people of Hell's Kitchen with professional artists to create original work, often performed free of charge for the general public. I'm Garrett Kim, program director here at the project. Since quarantine began back in March, project staff have adapted 8 programs for a virtual format, including online versions of playmaking, playback, teen ensembles, songmaking, wordplay, art making, radio making, and storytelling. And we've introduced new workshops like cooking, movement, and puppetry. We've had 4 virtual playmaking performances and several other closed sharings of work created by project members. This episode is part of a mini-series highlighting the stories from the virtual radiomaking program created this past spring. 4 of our then high school seniors, now college freshmen, did everything remotely and virtually, including the interviews you'll hear, with support, as always, from some awesome project volunteers. Sofia has been making movies at the project for as long as I've known her. What started as an interest with her smart partner has grown and grown, and now Sofia is making a career for herself in the film industry. Before going off to college, Sofia wanted to interview some artists and filmmakers in the industry to talk about the joys and the challenges of this career path. Here's Sofia's radio piece. Enjoy.
My name is Gianna Christine.
My name is Lynn Marie Rosenberg.
My name is Luis Chavez.
I'm Juan Del Rio.
I am a rising sophomore at School of Visual Arts. I'm a film major, a filmmaker. I specialize in editing. I do a bit of scripty work.
I am predominantly an actor. I'm also a writer and a director and a TV host, an interviewer. And then I consider myself a casting advocate, where I work to try and change representation and inclusion issues in the entertainment industry.
I'm a gaffer, filmmaker.
And I'm a filmmaker from Spain.
So how did you get into film and the arts?
For a while, I was really hyped up on being an art major and going to college for art, and I wanted to be an illustrator until I took a film class. And then I sort of realized and fell in love with storytelling and emotion and how each part of film contributes to that. So that's sort of how I got introduced to film.
People are always, some people have these really clear stories about when they became actor or when they knew that, that's what they wanted to do. And all I remember is when I was going into 2nd grade, you used to find out over the summer who your teacher was going to be. And I remember my mom saying to me, "Oh, you got Mrs. Governman. She does little plays and things. You'll really love that." And so people knew about me that I was a performer, but I don't remember why they knew that about me.
I had this realization one day after, I think I watched Good Will Hunting. I'm like, wow, I want to live so many dreams. I want to go to space. I want to be a physics professor. I want to do so much, but I can't do it all because of time. But I could write a movie about it, or I could be a part of a movie that does something, and I could somewhat live that life to some degree.
Yeah.
So it's just attracted to me. It spoke to me that way.
Well, the movie that inspired me to make movies was Jurassic Park. That's the movie that changed my life. I saw it when I was 4, 5, and it became movies became an obsession of mine. And then for 10 years, 8 to 10 years, I just watched movies and consumed movies all the time, constantly, obsessively. And then when I got enough, I don't know how I got my hands on a camera. I think it was my dad's. And then I started recording with my friends. So I became a filmmaker because it was inevitable.
What is something important to know about film or filmmaking?
I think story should lead always. So you have an idea for a story, you just go with it. I don't believe in like agendas or thinking. This is a personal thing. This again, we go back to that. I think it's a personal thing. I never believe in saying I'm going to make a movie about injustice. That's not my thing. I think story should be. I think story should be. I want to make a movie about a character who goes through this and this happens, and then through drafts, through the creation of the story, then you start finding out. Oh, I think I know where this is going. Right? When you're teaching film, when you're teaching techniques and stuff, you're exercising that muscle, and people will ask you things that you have to like always being rationalizing everything that you're teaching and making sure that this thing I'm saying makes sense. Or somebody will say, why is this way? Or why is this character? Why is this twist shot this way? Or what is the reason behind this? You're always like having to rationalize everything that you're teaching and make sure that with your beliefs and what is correct and incorrect are cemented in something that makes sense. It's not just you're just repeating something like a parrot, you know?
Right.
So I would say those are the two main things of why I love it so much.
So Ghetto Film School is basically a 30-month program where students from like all over the city come and learn about film. You get a bunch of like opportunities, and it's free. It's in the Bronx. We had to pitch in order to go on a trip to Rome, make a film, and I was a scriptie on that film.
Right.
And so everything was fine. Everyone was really sweet except for this one guy. I think it was the first day that we were actually on set. Each of us had mentors, and mine was a female scriptie. She was really cool, really helpful. Where we had like Video Village, which is where like you have like your monitor and your seats for like your director and your scriptie. I was going back to Video Village, and my director's mentor was sitting in my seat. And that he was like super close to the monitor, and he was blocking the director, and I asked him like, hey, can I get my seat back? Because like as a scriptie, you have to like actually sit down, stare at the monitor, and write down what goes on in each take. So the mentor was like, no, absolutely not. Like, I don't understand. Here, he pulled another seat from God knows where, and he was like, here, sit here behind us. And my mentor comes over, and she was like, what are you doing? Like, we're all learning here. I don't understand, like, why you're being like this towards her just because she's, like, younger. She's learning. We're all learning.
So Beanie Barnes is this writer that was a mentor of ours at GFS. She gave me a job to work as a PA in a Nerf set. So there was a gaffer there, and I was just hanging out with the gaffer. I was asking him questions about like, you know, like how do you get on like a set like this, and how do you do X thing. And mind you, at the time, I had a beard. I look older than my age, and I was 18 at the time. And we're talking for like a good like 2 hours. He's becoming like my best friend on this set, and he gets down to it. He's like, yo, how old are you? Because I think he was about to like put me onto a job just by like the way I was speaking about things. And I told him my age. I told him I was 18. He was like, whoa, you're 18? No, I don't believe you. And he like I pulled out my ID and showed him that I was 18. He's like, damn, dude, you're young. You're a young gun. You need to do more before you come here. Graduate college first. I'm like, god damn it, man. He was telling me how to bounce light off of the wall, but he was explaining like how it would like affect the light, and I'm like, dude, I know that. Well, I don't think he believed it. So, I mean, I don't blame him. When you're young, the outlook of a young person is that you're reckless. You're a teenager. You got some angst. You got some fire to you. You're likely clumsy. And you know, clumsy doesn't pay the bills. At least in film, you gotta know your stuff. The person who knows their stuff the best is probably the one who's gonna get hired.
I'm going into editing, so I have to like get certified. You can't just trust someone to walk up to like a computer and know, like, oh, this port does this, and this is how you break it up. You set it down. So like you have to go to school for that, and I know like a lot of filmmakers that dies against going to school for filmmaking, which I somewhat agree with when it comes to storytelling, but I definitely think if you are getting certified in like something more technical, like if you're going to be DP, you can't just like pick up a red, you can't just pick up a camera and then like expect to know everything. I have to sort of like learn all of those things, and I'm just turned like 18, so obviously I can't learn everything at once. So it's sort of learning that I have to take things a bit at a time, and I can't really force everything and expect myself to sort of know everything, because again, I am 18, and like there's things that I just haven't had the time to learn that I do want to learn.
As someone who is experienced in the industry, do you think the industry treats younger filmmakers differently or unfairly?
I wouldn't say it's a blanket statement that young filmmakers are treated unfairly in the industry, but because I have encountered people that do treat a filmmaker as a filmmaker, so it just depends. In my experience, it depends. It depends on, to be honest, it depends on also the background. Like indie producers, if they like you, if they see you're the real deal, they might listen to you a little closer. Then there's other people whose job doesn't depend on hiring filmmakers, so maybe they're not as kind.
Right.
I guess it depends. I would say if there's one piece of advice regarding that, is don't take it personally. Before you go to a meeting, try to think, if this goes this way, if this person treats me this way, it's probably not about me. It's probably something else, right? So because it happened to me a couple of times that I had meetings where I'm like, this person's kind of being a little disrespectful. But then you think about it and you're like, well, of course. I mean, if this person's job doesn't depend on finding a new, Ryan Coogler, she's probably not gonna care. So why bother? So this, what I mean? So it's more about that and less about taking it personally. And believe me, you're gonna get a lot of that. So I guess you gotta navigate it. People assume that movies are just made. Oh, movies just happen. I come here and they just write and it just happens. And no, it's a lot of work, and it's a marathon. Like it's a lot of work and a lot of time. So you gotta put the hours.
Do you see being younger as a disadvantage in the film industry?
So basically, I don't think I'm old enough to sort of have been on as many sets as I would like to be. Again, I've lived a pretty short life. I'm 18.
I don't even see it as like more like a disadvantage. I see myself at like the bottom of the ladder, and I just have to climb up. So work will be slow, I'm sure, especially now for like the next like 2 years. It's just gonna be really slow. But it'll just come.
In what ways have you invested yourself in filmmaking? Because I know equipment is so expensive nowadays, and like people buy cameras and people buy their own lighting equipment, but I guess you're pretty young, and now you have like your own stuff. What's that like investing in yourself like that?
It feels so good not to depend on an outlet to pick up your stuff from. If I just have my own stuff. These lights here, they've been helping me throughout this director's workshop that I just had. I bought these lights around January, so I use them throughout the semester, and they're lovely. They're so lovely. Investing in equipment, especially if you're going to work hands-on in like production, helps a ton, because that's one less expense that you'll have to use in your films. And if you have your own equipment, you become an asset, because you bring your own stuff to X place that you go and work for, and then you can help people with your own things. So it makes you more valuable as a filmmaker. I definitely want to invest way more in my own stuff, like I'm sure every filmmaker does, to be honest.
Like when it came to school, when I was comfortable academically, I thought to myself, like, okay, I need to make up for like time that I physically do not have there 24 hours in a day. So like I started skipping classes, and like the high school I went to, we have an equipment room, and like you could dim the lights, and that was like a really cool thing for me. So I'd spend time like in the dark just like editing away.
In many ways, writer's block is what makes the difference between somebody that writes and somebody that doesn't write. Like everybody has writer's block. That's just the default. Nobody just has ideas by itself. Like sometimes it happens, but most of the time the default is, I don't know what to write about. So the difference between a writer and a non-writer is the writer sits down and then just goes through that looking at the sky silence of, oh my God, I'm worthless. I'm not a writer. And then that process of you like punishing yourself psychologically is what is the difference between a writer and a non-writer. Like the writer knows that that's what it is. It's like it is what it is. And then you write and then you rewrite it and then you keep going and you keep going until you get to something that it's kind of acceptable, because it's never going to be like, this is the thing, this is perfect. Like it's just not going to happen. So
So, Lynn, I know that you have a show going on right now called Famous Cast Words. Can you talk about what it was like creating that show and how it got started?
If you've ever seen what's called a casting breakdown, which is it's essentially a job listing for actors, they have a nasty tendency to be extremely offensive. And I, of course, was only seeing the crap that a white woman would see, because that's like, what I would see demographically in the casting software. And I was just so fed up. I was like so done with seeing, like must have big tits. I mean, just like stuff that you could never get away with in any other industry that you can get away with in the entertainment industry. So I started posting them on Facebook, and like I would comment like with my funny commentary, and like my friends would comment back, and it was really just a way to commiserate with people. And so then the more I did that, I started like digging into like, well, what are other people seeing? And so friends of mine who are in communities that I don't belong to would send me, well, this is what we're seeing. Like, this is what we're seeing. And it was like down a rabbit hole. So I created a Tumblr, a blog basically, that was just pages and pages and pages of real lifted bad casting notices. Jesus. And I mean, that thing is hundreds of pages long. I had a very strong connection at the Public Theater, and Joe's Pub, which is a wonderful comedy and music venue there, I got a slot for a night. So the very first one I did was a fundraiser for 52nd Street Project.
Nice.
And that was in 2014. And it was basically just, I wrote this little script and I weaved together all these terrible breakdowns and I hosted, and it was really fun and people liked it. So I did that for like 4 or 5 years. And then I hit a point where self-producing is so hard. It's financially exhausting. It is physically exhausting. It's mentally exhausting. It's so satisfying. And when you the final thing happens, you're so proud.
100%.
But my God, is it unsustainable. So I wanted to keep doing the work, but I was like, I can't keep doing these shows. It's just too much on me. And so I came up with a one-on-one version, an interview version, that I called Castingless Living Room. And I just had friends come over. We'd hang out and eat snacks, and I would have them read bad breakdowns on my webcam. And it just so happened that a very close friend of mine from college became the senior producer for a network called All Arts, which is a PBS affiliate here in New York. And they were building content, and I was having lunch with her, and she said, do you have anything you want to pitch me? And I was like, I have 34 really shitty webcam videos that I made that really no one's watched, but I think would make a cool show. And that was how Famous Cast Words was born. And yeah, it was amazing to see, like we were talking about before, to see something that went from this weird little content I was making and putting on the internet to become a TV show that now I can watch on my own television and can watch streaming on a network. And I had, the production value went way up. It went from webcam and auxiliary audio to 3 camera setup and 3 producers and,
Before the pandemic, you were putting together a film. Can you talk about the process of making that film and more specifically putting the crew together?
I have a half-brother that I've never met, and so I sort of took inspiration from that. I sort of started asking myself, like, what if this half-brother that I've never met came knocking on my door and was like, hey, I need help. Would I help? And so that sort of took its own life. When it came to sort of making a crew, I had, again, you were on the crew, you were the producer, and I had a lot of people that, I think when you're a filmmaker, you work on things and you have people that, like, you make mental notes and you're like, okay, I liked what this person did, mental note, maybe use them for a later project. Or, oh, mental note, I like how these two people work together. Use it for a later project. So it's definitely a lot of, like, trial and error, I think, when it comes to, like, making crews.
Even when you do really projects, like when you do something that's just like, oh my God, this thing is just the worst, like,
100.
What am I doing? There's always one person. You can always pull one person out of that who's the one who catches your eye when, like, something's going on and, like, oh, you get it. You understand that what we're doing, like, we're both above this, or, like, or we both care more than this, you know?
You sort of think about, like, personalities. Because for me, it's important that, yes, I know that you can do your work, and yes, I know that you're talented, but will you cause me an issue on set if I am panicking about, like, actors, if I'm worrying about, like, a logistical problem? Will you be an issue? That's sort of, like, the question that I ask myself. I don't like working with people that are problematic or, like, who make a big deal out of things. If you can handle it, and if you, like, I don't know, I guess, like, if the person shows that if there's a problem, they're quick thinkers, then that's pro for me.
Can you talk about networking and the importance of knowing people and meeting people?
I often talk about networking with a capital N versus networking with a lowercase n. And capital N networking to me is like going to an event, bringing business cards, like trying to make sure you meet X number of people, versus lowercase n networking, which is like ultimately just making friends, like just finding your people.
I always thought that people in film school were a little, and in general, they're a little wrong in the sense that they think they have to network up. They have to network. And I always say that you got to network also in your level. Like, the people that are around you are the ones that are going to hopefully make moves with you. So you gotta also look with your peers, which is also very helpful.
And I think what you do is going to be so integral to this, is that you have spent your teenage years working on stuff, making friends in the industry, like, not in the industry, making friends, period, who then 20 years from now will turn out to be the person who gives you some amazing job. Right. I mean, I met this woman, Christy, when she was a sophomore and I was a freshman at Vassar, and I had no idea she was going to become a senior producer at a network. You know what I mean?
I want to be around people. Like, people at JFS are completely dedicated to, like, just doing this craft. I feel like people at my school are not, at least the majority are not, they don't have that mentality. They're kind of just doing funsies. They want to do it because they want to be a journalist. They want to do it because they want to make YouTube videos. There's a lot of YouTube videos, look like YouTubers at my school for some reason. And that's not what I want. I want to be around people who want to tell stories.
I love that.
So, that's like the goal.
Being passionate is contagious. So when somebody's very passionate about something, it's just almost intoxicating. And if you love it, like is my case, I could be, talking about film all day, and that's what we do in GFS. Is we make films and we talk about them. So it's great. It's kind of like a dream.
I think as time goes on, you get to know more people, and I think again, one of the pros of going to film school is that now I can say, oh, like, those aren't just my college friends. Those are also people that I make movies with. Those are people that I tell stories with. I think it's definitely harder to sort of like socialize. There's a lot of like film events that like even like Ghetto Film School hosts them, where it's like, oh, it's like 21 plus, because it's like drinking age.
Yeah.
So it's like social hours, stuff like that. And obviously, like, it's not that you don't want to go, it's that you can't go, because like there's an open bar, and so sometimes that sucks. But I think like generally, if you go to film school, you definitely have it easier than someone who's young and doesn't go to film school.
If you know somebody who is like in the industry and they have an ability to vouch for you, then you should 100% take that and run with it, because those are the people that like they will carry you to the next level. Because if you just start from the bottom, it's gonna take a while to get off the bottom. You need those cheat codes. Cheat codes are other people. You gotta know people. You gotta meet people.
For you, what is important for upcoming filmmakers to know, or just people who in general want to learn about film? What do you think is the most important thing that people should know?
I mean, I also believe be of service would be really important too, especially because we got a world in a lot of pain right now. Even without COVID, like, we have a world in a lot of pain.
100%.
So be of service. Find ways that your skill set can be of service, because you will have a much more satisfying time just emotionally if you're getting up every morning and thinking like, all right, how does my ability to see pictures and see lighting and see angle help the world? And honestly, being here for community will just make it more fun. Like, if you get to work on stuff that with people you like, I promise it's going to be a more enjoyable experience.
Way better.
Favor community as much as you can. A really good friend of mine once said, don't change anything about yourself for the industry, because the industry will never thank you for it. And I really took that to heart, where it's just like, if I'm going to make it, I'm going to make it. And if I'm not, I'm not. And also, what is making it is like a whole other question.
For me, like, I don't think I've ever want to like make it as like, oh, I want to be famous, like I want to have like millions of dollars, because that's, for me, that's not why I'm in the industry. I'm not in it to be a millionaire. I'm not in it to like have 5 houses. I'm in it to share stories with people, to make people feel things, and like regardless of whether that's a small indie production or like a student film or something with a bigger budget, it's all the same.
I, a long time ago, decided I am just here to make friends. I am here to build community. And I would hope that ultimately that also leads to building my own bank account. But in the meantime, like, I can't be here to try and achieve, whether it's stardom or getting a pilot sold or getting a film sold. Like, I can't be here for that. I just have to be here for community.
The word has some negative meaning now, but you're manipulating people into feeling things in a way that is almost invisible. Like, people don't realize how much effort and care goes into making you feel something and making you think something. And I find that very, very attractive. Even when I have it myself. So because I'm watching movies and I forget I'm watching the movie, and then when the movie's over, it made me feel away. And I'm like, that's amazing. Like, it's kind of like really interesting. There's some like magical element to it that I really would love to dedicate my life to generate for others. Find the thing that you like about film, and then you drill on that. And again, we're going back to the being honest to who you are. Don't pretend that, oh, I'm big into sound mixing, and if it's not your thing, just find the thing that you like about films, and then that's who you are. That's the thing that you want to dedicate your time to.
So speaking is a muscle that you have to train, and you got to keep flexing it constantly. Flexing your verbs, flexing your word choice, flexing your enunciation and things, and all other aspects, and just be brave and try to put yourself out there in the most vulnerable way possible. That's what people like. People enjoy people who they could see themselves in, or at least they could see into it. Like, not think you're full of shit.
it'd definitely be to have patience. I think being a mature person enough to not let age divide you and sort of just be there for someone.
I guess they should take more chances. And I mean this very vaguely too. Like, I mean take more chances in general.
You gotta take, especially as an artist, you gotta take advice with a grain of salt. I'm gonna tell you what worked for me and what I think works, but you gotta find your own way, right? So, because at the end of the day, this is not a science. You gotta figure it out. You know, advice is great, but I do think that finding your own ways is a very important part of becoming a successful artist and filmmaker in this case. Film it's long hours and it's a lot of work. So you gotta put the hours. And even in success stories where they tell you, oh, it's a success story. You know, from night to day, overnight. This guy is never that way. It's never that way. They just skip the 6 years of knocking indoors and getting nothing. They skip that. But the overnight stories are not really a thing.
A lot of the times when it came to, okay, I'm in the industry, what do I want to do now? Like, there's so many aspects of film that you can do. There's like hundreds of jobs. What do I want to do? I felt like Barry Benson from the B-Movie with like all the little jobs. It's like, I think in your heart, when you do something, you'll feel that passion for it. You'll feel that connection for it. And sort of thinking about like allowing panic to set in and allowing panic to rule over you is definitely not something or a road that you should be going down. If you love something, go after it and figure out how to make it real. It's a lot to say like, okay, I love film. It's another thing to say, okay, I love film. How am I going to get where I want to go? Small steps, make small goals. Where do you want to be tomorrow? Where do you want to be in a week, in a month, in a year?
I do not know what life is going to be after the next 24 hours. I know I will take my afternoon walk, and that is about all I know right now.
That's a vibe, honestly. Getting some fresh air. I'm not doing it enough. I need to go out more.
Go out, get your vitamin D, it's important.
That was Sofia's piece, featuring Gianna Christine, Lynn Marie Rosenberg, Luis Chavez, and Juan Del Rio. A huge thank you to all four of you for sharing your experiences. Sofia worked with volunteer Jacqueline Raymond during the radiomaking process, and the original music in this story was composed by Sean Eads. A special thanks to volunteer Therese Barbado for offering her interview insights to the Radiomakers this year. When I asked Sofia about her future plans, this is what she said. I'm going to Boston to major in business of creative enterprises at Emerson College. Beyond that, I hope to stay healthy, get a job, and win an Oscar. We're looking forward to your acceptance speech, Sofia. And now for the credits. The project member featured in this episode was Sofia. The adult volunteers featured in this episode were Sean Eads and Jacqueline Raymond. The PROJcast theme song was created by Justin and his smart partner Eric March and performed by Miranda Anderson, Rebecca, and Nicole. The PROJcast logo was created by Iris Brown. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search the 52nd Street Project and look for 5e and 2e on our logo. The 52nd Street Project is supported by public funds from New York City's Department of Cultural Affairs and the New York State Council on the Arts. The 52nd Street Project is a non-profit organization, and we're able to do what we do because of generous folks like you. Please go to our website 52project.org/donate to check out how you can support us. Every little bit helps. Next time on the PROJcast, project member Cheyenne sits down with a mental health professional to hear his story and to talk about some misconceptions. Until then, remember the project motto: we all belong, we all get along. See you next time.
See you next month. Wait, nothing rhymes with month. on the 52nd Street PROJcast.